Hi, and welcome once again to Ivy English. I'm Karen.
And I'm Chris Gorski.
Today is March 23rd. We're going to hear part 2 of an article that we started yesterday. The article was entitled, The Evolution of the Cinema, How Has It Changed? Here's our article. Streaming services like Netflix have been around for over a decade. Even before the COVID-19 pandemic, movie theaters were already losing significant business to streaming companies. The main reason was simply convenience. When streaming services began to feature new releases, people no longer needed to leave their homes to see the latest blockbuster film. This saves time, effort, and money needed for transportation and tickets. People can decide what to watch and when, with no risk of wasting time and money on a bad movie.
However, convenience is not the only advantage. Technological and social changes have also contributed to the rise of movie streaming. With high-speed internet, high-definition TV screens, and user-friendly entertainment applications, the in-home cinema experience is the best it's ever been.
These factors alone are enough of a challenge, but the COVID-19 pandemic made things even worse for movie theaters. Across the globe, people began to avoid large gatherings, especially in public, out of concern for their health. The impact of the pandemic on theater ticket sales was devastating.
However, movie theaters aren't down for the count just yet. With the easing of pandemic restrictions, a few films have proven that customers will still enjoy and pay for the theater experience. Films like Spider-Man: No Way Home and Top Gun: Maverick were remarkable successes. While most films see lackluster sales at the theater, it seems customers still value the theater experience for big-budget action films with exciting scenes. For the rest, however, most people seem content just to enjoy them at home.
I guess that's what the majority of us do now. It's so convenient and it's cheap.
Yeah,
and you
it's
have
a lot
as many as you want. However, I think going to a theater and seeing a movie still has its place. I think especially like for first dates and things.
That's interesting. What are the implications if movie theaters go belly up, which is a phrase meaning to die?
It's talking about fish, because when fish die, they usually kind of turn over, their belly goes up.
What do you do on a first date then, right? Because it's for me, a movie is a lazy first date.
Yeah.
But it is a first date. And when you're 14, 15, that's still a very novel experience. So what would you do, right? And that's what a question this is.
At this age, I can't judge from how I would feel at the time, but at this age, I would suggest a hike.
Oh, I was going to ask you what would be a good first date. I would say mini golf.
Mini golf is cute.
Oh, nice conversation, little bit of play.
Yeah.
But a hike is nice too.
Not a big thing, a big expense or anything like that.
Easy to escape, and if the date is going bad, you're still in the city.
So I guess a restaurant meal, a meeting over coffee, a hike. For me, a hike is a big one because you're not just sitting there focused on each other the whole time. You're also looking around, the environment.
That's a good way to find out if the person has physical similarities to you as well.
That's
Are
right.
they just a person that
That's true.
stays home, or can they keep up by going up a mountain?
There are people who never go out.
Yeah.
They never walk. They never do anything physically challenging, especially outdoors.
What a question this is. If movie theaters go belly up, what happens to the first date? Boy, this is a paper in the waiting here.
Exactly. Somebody write about it. Do a little survey. Find out what people think. Back to the beginning, streaming services like Netflix have been around for over a decade.
Almost 20 years.
I know, time flies, but a decade is 10 years. So, yeah, it was actually not so long ago that Netflix did not use this method. They mailed you a DVD, and then you mailed it back when you were done with it.
You could still do that, actually, at least in the U.S.
Okay, yeah, I guess I did read that, but I don't think that's a big part of their business anymore.
No. I think they continue it as a service for their older
customers.
That's right, and people that live in the most remote regions because they don't have
good
high-speed
enough internet.
That's right. So it's kind of like a legacy thing they do to help out those people.
just to remind you to be grateful for what you have, I have read that internet service in Taiwan is faster, better, and cheaper than in the U.S.
It is. I tell people all the time, I'm a gamer. I like playing online competitive games.
And so you need a high-speed internet
that's
connection.
That's right. And so your internet connection is a big topic of discussion. And people have accused me of lying about what we get for our price.
I know. They won't believe it. There's a lot of things they don't believe about Taiwan. Another thing that they won't believe is you talk about Taiwan's healthcare system.
Yes, they think you're lying.
They won't believe you.
You have to show them bills, and they still don't believe you.
Especially the conservatives. Yeah, you have things much better here. In the U.S., there is a big problem of lack of competition. I just read an article recently that described the many tricks that internet providers use to charge more for fewer services.
Oh, so
it's a thing.
I have not lived in the U.S. for a very long time now, and I still hate my internet service provider from back home. I still want to punch Comcast like right in their face.
Oh, yeah. So many people feel the same way.
Yeah, I haven't even used their service, and I still feel annoyed just thinking about them.
And you're still angry. That's how bad things are. Remember to appreciate what you have. So losing significant business, significant means a large amount. So back before COVID-19, they were already starting to lose business. The reason that they had to mail DVDs is because streaming was not practical. It just took up too much bandwidth. It was not really easy to do. But as everything improved, the technology improved, it became easier to show full movies in really good quality online, and that means that you didn't need to mail these DVDs around.
So the grammar here is you're losing something to something else.
Right. Note the two. The main reason was simply convenience. Oh, that's a nice sentence. Pay attention to it. It's simply, and then we add a noun, convenience. It's easier. When streaming services began to feature new releases, people no longer needed to leave their homes to see the latest blockbuster film. And this calls up images in my mind of a new movie coming out, a really big movie, and then people get in line all around the block to get a chance to see it at the movie theater.
So it's really funny you say this. So here's a trivia question for you. What was the first movie that was described as a blockbuster?
In my lifetime?
The first movie ever described. And it would be in your lifetime.
I have no idea.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. In the water, about a boat.
Okay.
It's about a shark.
We know. Yeah.
Jaws, 1973, 75's Jaws.
And I've never seen it.
Really? It's pretty good.
I don't like scary movies. You can see there's so many things I don't want to watch. I don't want to watch Borat and be shamed and embarrassed. I don't want to watch violence. I mean, that rules out just about everything that's in movies.
My wife says, like, if it's not gangsters or violent or profane, like, I won't watch it. That's
the other way around.
My go-to movie. That's like, if it checks those three boxes, there's a very good chance I'm going to like it, like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
The director of Jaws is Steven Spielberg, who I admire hugely, like Schindler's List.
Yeah.
And I recently listened to an interview with him. He was a very fearful child. Everything scared him about living, about life, about just being a kid living at home. He was scared of everything.
That's funny.
And so actually it was coming from this place that he decided to make movies of scary things that scared other people but did not scare him. And that's how Jaws came into being.
That's funny. And it transformed the way people thought about sharks, too. This is a separate story, but nonetheless, the first blockbuster movie was Jaws from 1975. It was called a blockbuster because people had to line up to buy tickets in the past. There's no phone app, obviously. You had to go to the box office. And blockbusters originally were from World War II. They were bombs that would blow up a whole city block.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's why they're called a blockbuster.
I didn't
You have to
know
line
that.
up around the whole block to buy tickets.
The other problem with Jaws is that it misrepresents sharks.
This is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Worldwide, 9 people die a year of sharks, but people kill like 100,000 sharks an hour. An hour! And 9 sharks kill people a year. That's so unfair.
It's very unfair.
Who's the real monster?
That we'll have the same answer to many similar questions. Okay, this saves time, effort, and money needed for transportation and tickets, and it saves you from freezing and from having your ears blasted and from the sticky floors.
It's so funny because I was reading this and I realized that truly my youth is dead because I agree with all three of these sentiments. It's like, it's kind of expensive. You got to go to the theater, then get home.
There's no place to park.
Transportation, you got to get the tickets. Like, hey, just stay home and watch it.
That's what happens, and that's why they're prospering.
15-year-old Chris is weeping in his grave.
Okay. People can decide what to watch and when with no risk of wasting time and money on a bad movie. Now, this is something I really appreciate because if you have a service, you can try out the movie and you find it's a loser, you just don't finish it. I started watching Grease because it was so famous and because Olivia Newton-John had died fairly recently.
Right.
I couldn't finish it.
It's corny. The music is corny. I grew up watching it a lot. I had a lot of women in my house, and downstairs it was nothing but women. I think there were like 6 women downstairs from us. So Grease was like a thing, and that soundtrack, and you know,
such a cliche.
I think it was intentionally hokey.
I guess
hokey
so.
Meaning cornball, corny, uncool.
Corny,
yeah. I could see why going in with no expectations, thinking it's this great movie, and being caught wildly off guard. It's
that's what happened.
What is it called? Kitsch, where it's
kitsch.
Almost
it's kitsch.
Yeah.
Kitsch. Kitsch. When something is just so corny, so common, so uncreative, a real cliche.
But sometimes it's also done intentionally, and that's how Grease was made. Not knowing this, I can completely understand. You'd have to go in expecting cornball and appreciating the music.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't finish it. On the other hand, she was a great singer.
That opening song from the Bee Gees, Frankie Valli sings it. Grease is the word. I play that song in my classroom all the time.
Oh, really?
In between classes, yeah. Kids walk into Grease, they know that.
And the places where Olivia Newton-John sings, I mean, she just had a beautiful voice.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
All right, our next paragraph is, however, convenience is not the only advantage.
So that is one really important reason that streaming caught on, but that is not the only good thing about streaming.
Technological and social changes have also contributed to the rise of movie streaming.
And we've sort of covered that already because before, internet speeds were not high enough to handle a lot of people watching high definition or even medium definition movies online. And social changes, well, that will include the pandemic and other things that have been changing.
Yeah, for me personally, I sort of miss going to the video rental store, but it's kind of impossible because there's just not many left. I remember there was a Blockbuster in Taipei.
Yeah, there were several for a while.
Not long. It only closed.
Not long ago.
Not horribly long ago, and it was an actual Blockbuster.
That's right.
It was unique.
I
just
was near
went
my
inside
university.
To be there.
Yes. Yes.
Let's continue on with high-speed internet, high-definition TV screens, and user-friendly entertainment applications. The in-home cinema experience is the best it's ever been.
So you wouldn't go for purely technical reasons because they have such good picture quality or sound quality or anything else because you get extremely good quality at home.
So user-friendly entertainment applications might be the clumsiest thing I've ever heard. It just means like the apps you watch movies on are really easy to use.
Yes.
And that's true. My mom actually navigates Netflix really well. And my mom needs to have all technology explained to her very patiently. So it must be pretty user-friendly.
Type in the name of the movie, click on it, start watching. Nothing else to do.
And then, if you give a bunch of movies you like, they're very good at suggesting other movies you'll like.
Thank you, AI algorithms.
Yeah, I suppose they're good for something.
That's right. Okay, so it says that the in-home cinema experience is the best it's ever been. We had nothing like this when I was a kid, but I have to be honest, I never really cared about the technical side of these things. I was fine watching black and white TV. And when I heard a song I liked, I didn't really care about the sound quality. I just wanted to learn the song and then read the lyrics. And I told that to the person who was going to lend me this song. I said, I don't really care about the, sound quality. I just want this song. He said, well, you listen to music to have good quality. I go, no, I just want the song.
I probably fall a little bit closer to your friend's opinion. Like, I really care about certain fidelity, but I also listen to a lot of small bands that just don't have good equipment. So their quality by nature is not very good. So in the end, the song is the thing.
There is a line that you will draw.
I
We
agree.
just probably draw it in different places.
Right.
If the quality is bad, I just won't watch it.
Definitely a spectrum here.
That's right. Okay, next paragraph. Those factors alone are enough of a challenge, but the COVID-19 pandemic made things even worse for movie theaters.
So a factor is just a thing you consider.
A reason. Yeah. Across the globe, people began to avoid large gatherings, especially in public, out of concern for their health. And it's not like they came up with this funny idea by themselves. It's everywhere. Everybody was telling you, don't do this. Theaters were closed to keep you out so that we could try and contain the pandemic.
Now, gatherings, that S, if you cross it out, you'll have to change this to gathering places.
That's right. So this was not something that we just came up with, I guess I better not go out. A lot of places were under lockdown. You really were not allowed, or you were strongly encouraged not to go places, or maybe the place wouldn't be open when you got there anyway.
I will say that theaters were remarkably creative during the pandemic in survival mode. There were instances where you and yourself could rent a whole theater. It'd be you in the theater and you pick the movie and you watch it. It would cost a significant amount, but if there was a movie you had wanted to see and you had never seen it in the theater because of your age or the availability, or it just was never around, you had never seen it in the theater, you could do that. There were cases of people playing their favorite video game on a movie side projector. Now, I personally would not play any online games in a movie theater because of the lag issues. But imagine playing your favorite game or watching your favorite movie again in a theater with that booming sound and probably cleaner floors because it's just you.
Forget the booming sound. I don't want that. Okay. Last sentence of this paragraph is the impact of the pandemic on theater ticket sales was devastating. Many of them did close down. Many of them failed. They did not have enough business to stay open.
The dollar theaters seem to have taken the brunt of this downturn. Back home, there are what we call dollar theaters, although they actually evolved into $2 theaters. And these were movies that were no longer fresh in the theaters. They may have been out 3 months. And if you didn't want to pay, let's say, what was roughly about 300 NT to 500 NT a ticket, and it was a relatively new movie in a relatively good theater. This was not they didn't have the best speakers and the best screen, but it was better than what most people had at home. And it was still just 30 NT to watch a movie, which was always really cool.
I think the Southeast Asia movie theater used to be like that, but now they show new movies.
Right. Okay, there's no place for me to fit this story, but it does revolve around movies, and I like to say it. If you watch after the end of the movie, you have the credits, and they scroll up, and at the very bottom of movies, there's this line that says, no animals were harmed during the filming of this movie.
Yes.
And in the 1940s, the American Humane Society protested the way animals were treated in movies. There was this famous scene where a horse was forced to run off a real cliff. And the horse fell 21 meters and it broke its back and it had to be shot.
Yeah.
So after this, it was like, why are we doing this to animals? Can't we fake this in many ways?
Yeah.
And since then, you have, well, I should say since the 1972 movie, The Doberman Gang, that phrase, no animals were harmed during the filming of this movie, were added at the end of credits. And on every movie shoot in Hollywood, there are people there to make sure that their only job is to make sure animals are not hurt in any serious way. Like a horse obviously can bump its knee or something, but they're not running off cliffs. It's
now become a cliche and sometimes used as satire. Like on a popular radio station in Taiwan, they will say, no animals were harmed in the making of this commercial.
Right. And that's true. That's exactly right. Now, today it's a joke, but they really do an important job. I mean, horses had to be shot because of what filmmakers were doing. That's right.
That's right.
Okay, our final paragraph. However, movie theaters aren't down for the count just yet.
And that is a metaphor from boxing.
That's right. You count to 10. 1, 2, 3. If they get to 10, you are KO'd. You are knocked out. Down for the count means you lose.
And this is really important, actually, more important than you might realize, because Americans are crazy about all kinds of professional sports. I personally am not, but you're in the culture, you're surrounded by it. We have so many slang expressions and idioms that come straight from sports. I wrote a whole article about it.
Sports metaphors are really important.
They're very, very common in American English. So even if you're not into sports, Make sure that you recognize them and you know where they came from because that way you'll use them more appropriately. Like down for the count from boxing. Here a guy has been kind of knocked out. He's down on the mat and they have to count. Are you going to get up before we get to 10? So down for the count, that means you are close to being defeated.
Okay, and let's continue to our next sentence. With the easing of pandemic restrictions, a few films have proven that customers will still enjoy and pay for the theater experience.
Sometimes you really want to have like surround sound and really large images. So some people still go just for the experience.
Films like Spider-Man, No Way Home, and Top Gun Maverick were remarkable successes.
Have you seen them?
No. I tried to watch Spider-Man No Way Home, and I'm a Marvel movie fan, but there's a whole reason why I can't stand Spider-Man movies anymore. We don't have time for. But Top Gun, I like a lot of old stuff, and so I was very intrigued by Top Gun. I just never ended up going. All right, so let's look at our next sentence. While most films see lackluster sales at the theater, it seems customers still value the theater experience for big-budget action films with exciting scenes.
That makes sense to me because if you really want to see these action films, you might as well see it, on a very huge screen, with a lot of excitement.
Lackluster it just means it's not really super good.
Not impressive.
Luster means to shine, so it's not shiny, it's not new, it's not great. Let's continue. For the rest, however, most people seem content just to enjoy them at home.
If I had read that sentence, I probably would have misread it and said, to just enjoy them at home. I probably would have said that. And I thought, you did it really well. I mean, it's correct, but to just enjoy them at home sounds a little more natural for me.
So that's what I wanted to say. And that's
there you
why
go.
I was reading it a little more slowly.
And you did it perfectly, no NG. Well done. Let's go to the questions. Number 1, fill in the blank with the information contained in the Day 1 passage about the history of the film industry in order of time. So we've got history of the film industry as the title here, and they've got time on the left, and they're talking about different decades or periods, and on the right is the development. So for the 1900s, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania became home to the first movie theater. The first films were shorter, silent, and in. In gives us a little clue here. The answer is black and white. But people still found them amazing. So right now we're thinking of black and white. That's not that great. But actually, there are things in black and white that are extremely effective. I recently watched the entire opus of The Twilight Zone from the 50s and 60s, and that's completely in black and white. And it's amazing.
Good series.
It's amazing.
Let's look at the 1920s. People started to enjoy blank, which were the opposite of silent films.
And this is the one that appealed to me so much because I love talking. And talking about talking, the answer is talkies, Talkies. Talkies, that's when they had actual dialogue with the movies and not just a silent image and then somebody holding up boards with the lines of the movie on the side. Next is the 1950s. Movies shot in blank became popular in this period. That was the 1950s.
And the answer is color.
That's right. That was a big deal.
And in the 1960s, even more people hung out with friends and families at movie theaters as more were built in almost all blank cities in the United States.
If I weren't really paying attention without, thinking back and trying hard to remember, I would have just said large.
Yeah.
Because, right?
Generally, that's the way this collocation rolls. In some cities would be
major.
Large. Major cities. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, in all major cities, that's what I would have picked.
However,
I had to look back at the text to give the right answer because I didn't remember it. And the answer is middle-sized cities, and there's a little hyphen between it. And I should remember that because I come from a middle-sized city. Specifically, if you're interested, it's St. Paul in Minnesota, and next to us is Minneapolis, another middle-sized city, a little bigger than St. Paul. So that's where I think a lot of us come from. All right, number 2.
We have a fill-in-the-blank phrase here. There are several factors in the increasing popularity of streaming services. Simply put, besides the pandemic, the success of streaming businesses lies in the blank of streaming services and changes in both society and blank. This was challenging for me. It took me a second to write these.
Okay, so it wasn't just me?
Yeah.
Okay. The answer is the success of streaming businesses lies in the convenience of streaming services and changes in both society and
technology.
And number 3, which of the following is closest in meaning to the phrase down for the count in the last paragraph of the day 2 passage? And this one I answered easily. I paid attention to that. We just talked about it. And the answer is
D, entirely a thing of the past.
That means it's close to failing or death. And that's it for today. Go watch your favorite movie, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.